Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed.
Greetings. Welcome to Voice Out of Zion.today. So we're back with someone very special. We're back with our Prime Minister, International Ambassador, Prince Asiel Ben Israel. Prince, glad to have you back.
Pleasure.
All right.
Pleasure.
So we're going to cover some great information with him, and you're going to see. We're going to just come back to him shortly, but you're going to see a more in-depth historical view of what we're doing and who we are. In the interim, we have our great poet here, Brother Sadiq. Brother Sadiq, we're ready.
Toda Kohane. Ambassador.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
This piece is entitled Ode for Brother Gil. You are neither gone, nor are you forgotten. Take your well-deserved rest for a job well done. God bless the messengers who faithfully sound the alarm, the watchmen who warn of approaching harm. You have fulfilled your godly task, and this is as much as we could wish or ask. Yes, Brother Gil, you did our ancestors proud by shouting the message clear and loud. And if it seemed that you were a casualty in a bloody war, appearances can be so misleading to those keeping score. So ride on, brother, on the crest of a karmic wave, for heaven has a sheltering place where go our honored brave. I see you there now, in the company of other august heroes who proved, in spite of circumstances, that we are not zeros. Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X, freedom fighters all, and other stalwarts who gave their lives in answer to the Spirit's call. No, you are not gone, for like your spirit, your words live on. Still are we inspired by your prose, poems, and songs. Still are we compelled to strive when popular opinion says we cannot win. Still your light dispels the darkness when common sense declares we are at our end. And though to the untrained eye, it may appear that you were a bit vainglorious, we who hold your memory dear know that you were indeed victorious. So ride on, brother, as the book of life prepares you for another page. For heaven has a place reserved for you in the coming age. You are there now, in the company of many august heroes who defied the circumstances that would have named us zeros. Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X, freedom fighters all, and other stalwarts who gladly gave their lives in answer to the Spirit's call. You are not gone, Brother Gil, neither are you forgotten. Take your well-deserved rest for a job well done. God bless the messengers who faithfully sound the alarm, the watchmen who warned of approaching harm. You have fulfilled your God-appointed task, and this is as much as anyone could ask. Yes, Brother Gil, you've done our people proud. Continue to shout the message clear and loud. Ride on, brother, on the crest of a karmic wave. Heaven has a sheltering place where go our honored brave.
To deliver the message of the day. An angel flew from the Holy Land to his people so far away, to a land where his Father fathers were slaves. To many foreign lands he traveled to fulfill his father's command, running here and there and preaching everywhere that the kingdom of God is at Nasihat we know that you hated to go, but the world they must know that the salvation of all mankind is in Yerushalayim. His heart he yearns to be right here with you and me. So until that time we all be one in mind. Nasi Asiel.
Well, I want to say about the poem first. Very powerful poem to lead into that song. And Prince, Nasi Asiel, that song was about you. Very powerful. It brings chills through me because I look at the history and the time that took place during that song. Tell us, why that song? What prompted that song to be created?
First of all, let me give all honor to the great God of our fathers so that you'll understand what I've been saying over these 50 plus years, that Prince Asiel was not an individual person. Prince Asiel was the voice that was chosen by YAH to bring a message of redemption to his people in America. And when I was chosen to go back to America in 1973 to prepare for the onslaught that was coming upon us, because prophetically, if you know in the book of Daniel, in the midst of the week, the Messianic people would be cut off for a time. Mm-hmm. And in July of 1973, Prince Akiezer was the first one to be deported from Israel, going to cash his check. He never made it back to the village of peace in Dimona. But I was in place to receive him in America because I was there. My first ambassador with me was Prince Gabriel Godot in '73. And so we were invited to Detroit by the late Queen Mother Kava, who had a cosmetology school that we began to meet at. I met her at the University of Michigan, invited by Professor Green to come and speak to his class about why we were in Israel. And when I did that in 1972, when I was in America, I was taken in Detroit to meet a man named Elder Clark Jenkins, who was a Hebrew historian. He had written a book called After 430 Years in Modern-Day Babylon, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi were the tribes that he had identified in America from Israel. And when I met him and told him I was from Israel, he told me that I was the confirmation that the vision that God had given him was an absolute fact. He didn't know if what he felt was real. But as I sat in his home, and he was in his 70s then, and he told me that I had confirmed for him the reality of the vision that he had been given. Now, in '72, I meet a lady named Queen Mother Moore. And Queen Mother Moore was a freedom fighter for our people in the southern part of America. She was now living in New York City. And when she heard me speak at a conference on the state of the race about we had returned back to Israel based on what Dr. King had said in 1968, that the vision that he had about we as a people will get to the promised land, she responded by telling me she heard me and it resonated with her. She was in her 70s when she met me. She invited me to come to Los Angeles with her and her friends. And it was then that I went back out there later on with Prince Gabriel Godot, who was visiting his cousin in Los Angeles, and we stayed at her home and told her about Israel because she was supporting the brothers and sisters who had went to Tanzania in East Africa. So all of these men and women who we were meeting at that time was confirming for me the vision that Rabbi had said, that the angel Gabriel told him it was time to begin to return back to the promised land. I validated the validity of his vision by meeting the people because he couldn't leave Israel. It was war in heaven, and he was under country arrest. So I was the one chosen to begin to search out the verification of God's word from New York all the way to California. And so in '73, when I went back to America, I was invited to Detroit by the late Queen Mother Kava to come and begin to tell her and her friends what our mission was, because she told me that God had told her that what I was saying was real and true. And I met her daughter, who's currently in Israel to this day. And she's a skanit in the community, which means a minister.
Okay.
And so she not only was a great sister and a great mother, but she was also a foundation block for the building of the kingdom. Because without her, Imakava, providing a place where we could congregate in her cosmetology school, it would have been no mission in Detroit in '73. Now, Shavakia, her daughter, gave comfort to the angels that God had sent down, Gabriel Godot and Prince Asiel. Prince Gabriel and I stayed at her home with her children. We met her brothers who are now in Israel, Maria Salem, and her other brother, older brother, were the men that we began to organize. And great brothers that are still in Israel, Ben Zion, received us, and we started a brotherhood at his home. And it was there we began to speak truth to the brothers. And great men came out of that.
Oh, yeah.
The men that came out of that Detroit movement was not only those of us who had gone back to America from the deportation of the government of Israel, but there were great men such as Rofe Amadia. There was now currently the great Prince Eliel and his wife Elisheva in 1973. There was the Atura, Akdia, and there was the brothers of Moriel and the priest of Gedalia, and the other brothers that came out, too many to name, but they celebrated 40 years of coming out in 2003 from Detroit. And they know that the angels that came down to spearhead that movement was led by none other than the redeeming angel that was anointed after the movement of the people out of Detroit by Ben-Ami. And he told the people that night that whatever Prince Asiel would bind on earth, Yah would bind in heaven for him. And I move with that kind of anointing and power to this very day. Now, the reason I wanted to go back is he used to have an expression to the people, it's dangerous to forget. Now, I didn't take myself to Israel. I didn't make myself the voice of Yah. I did not have the ability to deliver the people. Mm-hmm. I was chosen to lead the people. That song, though it was talking about me as a singular person, but it was a collective of me. The men and the women who were deported was 19 people in 1973 that went back to America because they had made a decision, the government of Israel at that time, that all of the Hebrews would be deported from Israel. Mm-hmm. Now, what we did, we began to have the perfect faith that we were not going to be put out of that country. The prophecies did not read like that, that we would come and then be sent back to the lands of the captivity. Right. Even though we had no resources, no political power in or out of Israel, but the one thing we did have was the God of Israel watching over us. And even though 19 people had been deported from Israel, before it was all over, 158 people had been taken back to Israel, starting in 73 December, which is when Ima Havana and Aturah, Zipporah, her sister, came into that country along with all of the others from Detroit, and many of them are still there. But like in all struggles and battles, we lost people on the way to the victory that we celebrated. Mm-hmm. But before they left, their spirit was in that land to be embodied in the children. They themselves did not know that they were being transported spiritually, those that left, so that the spirit of those men and women that left Detroit would be in the children that would be born up until this day in that land, so that they would be the resurrected spirits that was taken from America in the great slave trade to be in the Holy Land to fulfill the vision that Dr. King said to the world. That he had been to the mountain top and looked over and seen the promised land. He said, I may not get there with you, but we as a people will get to the promised land. Now, 5 days earlier before that day, he had told Harry Belafonte that he believed that he had made a mistake by trying to integrate God's people into a burning house. And that burning house was America, because if you recall, during the 60s, the riots, all of the cities were starting to burn. Right. And 69 cities in America went up in flames after the death of Dr. King, so that the world would know that he was not just a black preacher. He was a prophetic voice speaking directly to God's people in Israel and around the world, that they were the chosen people of God. And so my job was not that of a man. I've done nothing of myself. Everything that I've said and done has been on behalf of the Holy One of Israel and his people, even though many were saying it wasn't time to go back. And in our naivety, we only knew Israel through scripture that we had basic understanding of. But over my 50 years of traveling around the world, I've met the great men and women scattered in the four corners of the earth to validate that our being in Israel not only was prophetic then, is prophetic now. And I'm prepared, as I've been from the day that I got on that plane, to continue to lift up the children of Israel born in the Holy Land now. I'm being transferred to speak to the generations born in Israel, to let them know they're not in danger of ever leaving that land. It's a video that I did in 1986, 87, when we were on trial in America. And the reporter came in and said, you know, you're being deported, your people are being deported. I looked into the camera as I am now and said, we're never going to leave that land. That wasn't me talking. That was the Spirit of the God that put the Spirit in Abraham 3,500 years ago to say that, know of a surety that thy seed will be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and they shall serve them, and they will be afflicted for 400 years. Right. Well, President Trump signed a bill this year, last January, indicating that from 1619 to 2019 would be the culmination of the 400 years from our captivity in America. Now, most people want to blame white people for slavery, right, but we don't, because our incarceration in America was not only to correct us, but it was to redeem us and lift us up for not being obedient to the instructions 6,000 years ago in the beginning of the new generations, starting with Adam and Chava. So the world called it Adam and Eve. Right. But when you begin to understand the difference, you'll understand what it is that I'm saying. And the words I'm speaking tonight is to go back and remind the children who were born in Israel that they were tested to see if they would go back to evil ways. And they've been tested. Some went to drinking, some went to doing drugs, some went to being disobedient to parents. But it's a core group that have heard the words of their fathers and mothers and have maintained their credibility as the children of Israel who have been redeemed by the Holy One of Israel and by the words of his servants, the prophets that spoke of the redemption. Now, we know we just celebrated Yom Kippur in the Jubilee year, and we were told that, yea, though your sins be as scarlet, I will clean them up and make them whiter than snow. And I'm saying to all of the generations born there, this is the time for you to know that all of your past sins and crimes against the Holy One of Israel and the instructions of your parents can be forgiven, but you've got to choose to turn back to righteousness and truth. That's the only way that you're going to be able to stay in that land. And the message that I'm saying to all of the people in Israel, I'm not a man that you can say don't know what he's talking about. You're in Israel because I heard the voice of Yah, just like you believe Ben-Ami heard the angel. I know I heard the voice of Yah because I've been tested for 50 straight years. They thought that I would pick a fight with Ben-Ami about his decision to tell me or anybody else what to do. That was not for me. That was for Ben-Ami to see if he would be obedient and put me in a position to see if I would fight him. I didn't. And I didn't fight those that thought they were right about the decisions that they made. They can't keep me out of that land. They can't keep nobody that serves the God of Israel. But those that don't hear the voice of Yah and are not able to discern truth from a lie will be the victims of their own self-deception. Now, I'm saying the women in Israel who have survived will grow to another level of truth. Shadiah understands what I'm saying. And many of the sisters that came out of Detroit movement understand. They know who I am and whose I am. So when that song was played, talking about Prince Asiel, yes, he's an individual, but he's what was written in the Genesis. Let us make man and woman in our image. I'm part of the collective spirit of the women and men who journeyed up to celebrate the life of Ima Havana, who came out to celebrate her life and my reality in that land. And that energized me in a whole nother way, Cohane, to let me know that whatever the challenge were then, it doesn't exist now. And men such as Sir Eliakim and I have had an opportunity to communicate, and other ministers and other Kohanim know the genesis of truth in that land. And so I went there to show myself that there is no issue with me and the people there, or those that want to continue to serve the Holy One of Israel. They have the right to make a choice. Just like Moses told them, I put before you this day life and death, and choose life. Well, I'm saying it to the people in Israel who say they love the God of Israel. I'm putting before you this day life and death. Choose life and live, so that our people and children can have a future. But remember, the children's teeth will not be set on edge because the parents ate sour grapes. So your children that you thought were your children are not your children. They belong to the Holy One of Israel. And I don't want the children to feel that their fleshly parents have sway over them. They are to follow the spirit of YAH that was given to them when they first were born. That's why they have those holy names.
That's right.
And those names are the attributes of YAH. Those are not Sam and John and Henry. That's why you hear me calling Omar or YAH Khai or Yair or Azriel or Yatmi or Sifu Na or Ben Koliah. You got to know that those are the voices of YAH for this dispensation of time. And I'm here to testify. That's why YAH has kept me here, so that I can bear witness that the new leadership is already in Israel. I'm part of the first generation, and I can bear witness who those men and women are that are now standing for truth. I come to give clarity, and I come like Daniel came to give skill and understanding so that they can go. So that song is representative of the new people. They're the new Prince Asiels and the Prince Ben-Amis and the Prince Shaliachs. We're going to give respect to those that preceded, but we're going to give honor to those that came through us and out of us.
Well, that's powerful, Prince. We are going to take a commercial, but we want to come back and talk more about the redeeming angel.
Okay.
You're talking to people all the time, every day. We're going to talk more about that. Stay tuned. We're coming right back after this divine commercial to the voice out of Zion.today. Thank you.
like working with your family? Good question.
Right, great question. Original Soul Vegetarian was established over 38 years ago from our parents, so we're second generation owners.
Back then in the 80s, nobody knew what vegan looked like.
But if you say, oh, this is barbecue, they'll eat it and say, oh, it's good.
Original Soul Vegetarian has been an anchor in this community. At least 90% of our clientele aren't vegans.
It has helped the community a lot with being aware of healthy eating and healthier options.
Most of everything that we sell is sourced locally, and it's all made in-house because it's just not about food for us. Your health is your wealth. Just add something healthy to what you're eating. You're gonna feel better.
Okay, we're back to the voice out of Zion today. Prince,
Yes, sir.
that song talked about a redeeming angel. And you're talking to people every day, all walks of life, important people, important thoughts and ideas, skilled people. What is it that they hear? What is it that they hear when you talk to them? And how does that tie into the redeeming angel?
Well, you're absolutely right. When Ben-Ami said he had a vision from the angel, Michael, to tell him it was time to leave America, he couldn't describe what the angel looked like or any of that. It was a spirit that was revealed to him that it was time. It just so happens that the redeeming angel of that generation that Ben-Ami was a part of is me. I'm still here. My job is to redeem those children that have been born in Israel for the work that they got to do for the next 50 years. So that the Jubilee of this year is launching the redemption of those born in that land. They must not be afraid. I'm not some old guy that's been around. I'm a spirit that have never left Yah. I was elevated during my separation to the level of cherubim, but over that I went to the seraphim level. Satan's level of angelic order was the cherubim. I'm at the seraphim. I have access to the Holy One of Israel 24/7. And therefore, my words are redemptive for today, not for yesterday only. When I got a call about 4 or 5 days ago from a young man that I went to Florida to get his mother and father, Avishai. And he was one of the 9 children of Prince Masiyahu and Sister Zabda, who is a princess herself. Now, the reason I can say that she's a princess, she's been a servant to her God and his people and been fearless and unafraid to speak boldly truth to no matter who it was about what was taking place. People try to judge people by other people saying you're this or that. They don't have that authority. They didn't bring Zabda to Israel, so they can't tell her be quiet or stop. They didn't put Yair in Israel. They can't say you this or you that. They didn't bring Omar. I went and got Omar's father out of Detroit and brought him to Israel. And he is the beneficiary. They can't tell Skan Adiv, now Saradiv, what he can and cannot do. They didn't bring him there. I went down to the university as the redeeming angel and brought him and a host of others to come there. And he has persevered, endured, and continued. And I can go on down all of the parents and all of the children that come from it. It looked like Ben Asiel is physically not here. It was a choice because he needed to be born again in order to get the stench of evil off of him that he picked up by growing among the wheat and the tares. And the tares were able to get the upper hand on him because they knew he was a chosen, anointed child. That's why when you go back and see that Pharaoh said, kill the male child and let the woman live, they thought if they separated the masculine part of the feminine part of God, they would be able to manipulate the female. But it's not like that. The young girls that are born in Israel are goddesses, and they will not be destroyed by a man of any kind, whatever they call themselves. So I want the children to know it is their time now to begin the redemption of their parents. Ben Asiel redeemed me. I'm here because Ben Asiel. He gave his life so that I could continue to do the work. When his last message was, Abba, go back to Yah, which brought you there, and not get involved in personality fights with the men that are trying to make you be a mere man. I heard him loud and clear. His mothers are the women that God gave us to build that kingdom with. And I'm saying to the sisters, we are back at the strongest level that we can be at. And the children that you gave birth to are now your protectors, and they are the men and the women that you need to trust because they're you in the 21st century version of yourself in the 20th century. That's what this is all about now. So the redeeming angel is a constant spirit that Yah has always sent to his people to keep them on the track. And I'm still doing my job to redeem the people of Yah. Now, if this message is not for you, you're not part of the redemptive program of Yah. You can do what you want to do because, as Moshe said, I put before you this day life and death. But I'm going to say what he said. Choose life and live. You know who Prince Asiel, the redeeming angel, is. Because if you've been coming to Israel from 73 December up until now, the only way that you could get there is that Yah sent a redeeming angel in the midst of his people to lead the way.
Well, you know, people need redemption. They need to get away from a falling system. Somebody has to tell you what to do.
I was a redeeming by an angel, Ben Ami, son of my people. I heard him. I was redeemed by the angel, Prince Shalir. I heard him. I was redeemed by Prince Amishadai. I heard him in that tavern in Chicago Heights. You see, when Elihu wrote the song Prince Asiel, I was in America. I didn't know he had written it. We hadn't collaborated. I didn't know what he had penned until the night I landed back in Dimona in 73 December, and it was unveiled that night. And that's when I went from just Prince to the great redeeming angel, spoken by the mouth of the Messiah, who Nasi Shalik anointed, and who Prince Eleazar, who started the priesthood, appointed sitting on the throne of David. But you've got to go to the 30th chapter of Jeremiah and begin to see that the new redemptive king that sits on the throne is the people. It's not an individual. That's why I always said Prince Asiel is not an individual. YAH Khai is an ambassador and a prince. So is Yosef. So is Omar, an ambassador and a prince. I know how to discern these spirits of these children because Khazriel was a prince. He would have been out on the mission with me as an ambassador, but because things had to go another way, but He is who he is. And he's a servant. Zipporah is who she is. She's that princess with strength in the midst of the people. We've got to understand that the people who are trying to judge, they're not the ones that can call who is who and what is what. And so my plea is that the redemption of Yah's people is not a personality. It's a spirit. And those who worship Yah worship him in spirit and in truth. I don't need anybody following me. Everybody followed me to Israel. So what do I need them to follow me to do what? They did what I needed them to do, come to Israel and become who you are. Everybody. Now, those who hear me, Asiel Haron heard me in 1973-74 in Cleveland. He's not to be toyed with as if he's just, well, we don't like what you're talking about. That's not the way it works at the level that I'm talking about. You need to know that the men and the women that's in Dimona, Arad, and Mitzpeh, these are the chosen vessels that God have chosen, the Amaniels, all of these men and the sons and daughters of these great men and women are there for a purpose. They're not there as Negroes from America. They're there to be transformed to the saints of the Most High God.
Well, you know, you speak about having this awakening in 2007, a turning point in your life on how you saw people that were coming to you. People come to you all the time and talk to you. But in 2007, there was a turning point. Tell us about that turning point.
In 2007, I was in Ghana, West Africa, and the Spirit said something is wrong. I had no idea what was wrong. All I knew is that I was talking to Prince Gabriel, and at that time saw Eliel and saw Madiel about the things that had been given to me to share with them that we needed to correct. The next thing I did was fly up to Israel to talk with Rabbi so that he would know my thoughts and my position. That was in the summer of 2007. I had brought people from Ghana up there. We were drilling for water in Ghana, and we had Eliel building the village in Benin. We had a Benin mission. I had met with the president of Benin. I had met with the president of Ghana. I had invited 3 sitting ministers up to Israel so that they could see firsthand what we were doing. And then when I realized that we had lost 10,000 acres of land in Ghana, we had lost all of the boats that we had taken over there for ecotourism. The BSI headquarters, Bold Spiritual Initiative, was closed. The school was closed. The rice mill had broken down. The tofu factory was closed. I knew that we were not doing something right because we were the people that no failure could come to if we was doing what was right.
That's right.
And I shared that with the leadership. And they thought the problem then must be me for me telling them the truth. But I was raised on truth has the inherent power to produce the promised effect.
Right.
And so I was speaking truth to power. Was Prince Asiel perfect? Absolutely, for the job that I was doing. Did I make mistakes? Only those that I permitted my carnal mind to make. And so every Yom Kippur, I confess my problems or weaknesses to the priesthood and to the leadership as to what it was that I could do better, and I stayed focused on improving myself. You got to remember, I had been in captivity for 400 years, so that we didn't come out altogether unpunished.
Right.
So I didn't blame anything on Ben-Ami or the Nisikim or the Sarim for the challenges for growing up. Michael Jordan was the great basketball player, but he didn't make every shot.
Right.
but he still carries the title of the greatest ball player paying. That don't mean that LeBron James and others coming behind him won't break some of his records, but they won't never surpass at the time he did it what he did. I want to make ambassadors and princes and men and women who will commit themselves to improving the kingdom of Yah in Israel.
Well, that's important because it's needed. We need people to do the things you've always done. And we need more because it's a big world out here. And it's moving fast. People are changing.
But you see, most people don't understand how big the world is. I've been to all of the continents talking about this. I went to South America in the 70s, down in Guyana with the brother who's still in Israel, whose uncle was down there. I went to the Isles of the Sea and collected the people. In Jamaica, I brought the Rastafarians up to Israel to let them know that they weren't wrong, but I told them about being a Rasta and how you can't look at Haile Selassie and say that's Rastafari, and he looks like me, and you telling me just because I don't have dreadlocks, I'm not a Rasta.
Right.
I'm more Rasta than you. Just because I ain't smoking ganja, that means I'm not a Rasta. There's no high like the Most High. I was high off truth. That was my high that I got, and every time I discovered more truth, I got higher.
You know, the song Exodus, talking about Jamaica, that song is almost a theme of what you've been doing.
Well, that was the theme song of the play we put together called Sound and the Kidnapped African, the movement of Jah's people.
Yes.
I brought Rita Marley to Israel and went to Ghana with Rita Marley. And Atara Ahlia was her good friend and her dresser of culture. People don't know what we've done around the world. My view of Israel is more than that. I brought Rabbi to meet with 23 of the 25 presidents of Jewish organizations. I brought Rabbi to meet the chief judge of the D.C. Circuit after my trial was over, and Rabbi heard him say, I don't know how you get a man like Prince Asiel to be so dedicated, and his life was facing 30 years in prison, and he could bring you to meet me, and I can receive him. Don't you know he's no ordinary man to do this? When the prosecutor, Michael Hannon, hadn't talked to us since I left that trial, but when Kadmiel got arrested coming in to see about his mother, I told the brother to call the prosecutor. He said he hates us. I said, no, he don't. He don't hate us now. The Spirit then told me it's a new day. Michael J. Hannon, the prosecutor, went to see about Kadmiel and made sure that he didn't stay in jail. And he was able to talk to Kadmiel's wife at that time. And I can go on and tell you the stories of the great redemptive people that I was a voice for and on behalf of. We have credibility in America with everybody, not just Hebrews, not just Muslims, not just Christians, not politicians, not black or white, but Jews from all stripes. I've been meeting with the Jewish community in America for 50 plus years and talking to them, and they know who I am. So I'm saying all we got to do is trust that those who brought you there to build the blocks for the kingdom of Yah.
Well, you know, you were saying today how we're a practical people, and we're not looking at this thing mystically. We're looking at it spiritually, and how we have to move according to what we feel and what we see. It's so important that we stay attuned to our inner spirit and how we're moving and planning and strategizing.
Just like David couldn't fight Saul, I would be foolish to try to fight the kingdom that I was a part of being a construction worker to build the kingdom. My work, people don't understand, was outside. Ben-Amin's work was inside, and Nasi Shalik's works and others were inside. That don't mean that my work was less than anybody else's or more important than anybody else's, but you cannot not acknowledge it.
Right, right.
That's all I'm saying.
It's important that you pull the opponent into your corner, that you have where your position and power is at.
Yes.
And our power has been spiritual. It's been prayer.
Right.
It's been focusing on Yah and his voice. And if we work from that standpoint, we can't lose.
Yes, absolutely. I'm a winner.
That's right.
I didn't bring nobody to Israel. I didn't have no keys to get them into the airport, but everybody that I sent up that's in Israel now came through the front door of Israel, and they're not hiding in Israel to this day. And I'm saying we can continue to do it, but if you don't do the works of the righteous, you won't get the benefits of the righteous. All we got to do is turn around. Teshuvah. Turn away from the wicked ways that we're doing and not make war with each other. I'm saying this day, let's sit and reason together. The time that I spent with Eliakim has been invaluable in just short conversations, because he know me, but I also know him and everybody else over there.
Right. We're going to take a commercial, a divine commercial, and you're going to hear much more from Prince, and we're going to kind of get much deeper with this because it's important that you know the history and know what the spirit is that's being utilized today to solve our problems and to take us back home. Stay tuned to the Voice Out of Zion today. Be right back. Thank you.
Every now and then I get that feeling, and I've got something I want to say.
One of the great things about being a vegan is that the uniqueness of it.
And I've got to say it my way.
So gathered with me today are just a sampling of those vegans who have become loyal supporters of Soul Vegetarian.
Welcome to Soul Vegetarian Restaurant.
Welcome back to the Voice Out of Zion today. So you've heard the first part of this talk today that dealt with Exodus. We dealt with the spiritual component, the approach, and we dealt with the redeeming angel and what that looked like. And now we're going to talk about, on this last phase, more of how that looks today. We talked about the history part of it, but today, Prince, the redeeming angel is still here.
Well, let me say what today looks like. You see, I think many of the people got mistaken that when Kohen and Naviel stepped away from the priesthood and stepped away from being a crown brother, that they thought he didn't believe in the kingdom anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He had to be obedient to the spirit that brought him there. And he know what brought him there and what he came there to do. He was one of the first men to go out on a foreign assignment down to Liberia and begin to instruct the people from the diaspora in Liberia as to what it was to become a saint in the new kingdom. When I realized that we needed to get back on track, we had to develop Amutot in order to continue to do it, because we had lost all probability as credibility with the government of Israel as to who was who. If there don't be someone representing the truth of Yah, then we would be back to being Negroes again.
Right.
Anybody that's fighting against a Naviel, Yedidiel, Ishaya, these men and women who have set up legal Amutot to go ahead and continue the work that we came there to do. Yes, I was intimately involved in saying, let's develop the key processes to do what we need to do. And I'm going on record today to say I'm ready to assist in everything I know to do in America and around the world, because I went to the AU in 1973 and was in Ethiopia when it took place, and begin to do that. So I'm saying, let us reason together. Let the divine family of Yah sit down and let the people see that we know how to heal ourselves and restore dignity back to God and his people. So that's what I want to do. And so in part 2, next week, I will continue the journey from 73 up into the current reality and fill in things that we can do right now. And I look forward to sitting with the men and the women who want to serve Yah and serve his people. And it don't matter how old you are, I'm ready to sit with you.
Because, you know, it doesn't end. People are still calling. They're asking how to become part of this.
Now, let me just say that to that question. I talked with a sister who was a direct descendant of Bishop Crowley, one of the first Hebrews in America from the 1800s. And she and her family and friends and Knesset that she's a part of is looking forward to relating to us in a very powerful way.
That's right.
We bring the Jewish community from the whole house of Israel. We don't have a problem. We were children when we came there and talked about black and white. That's not what this is all about. It's about what's right and wrong. Our pain for the pain of our people that got murdered up in Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. We've got to be able to show the redemptive power of us aligning ourselves with truth, not with color, with truth. And I'm saying the only way that we could have stayed in Israel is that the Holy One of Israel had put spirits and Israelis there to embrace and love us, not because of our color, not because we call ourselves whatever we call ourselves, but because they saw God in enough of us to believe that the only way we could be there is that the Holy One of Israel brought us there. And that's who, and that's what I want to continue to lift up.
Prince, please give us that definition again for truth, because that's so important. What are we doing? When we say we're working on truth, we're presenting truth, we're talking truth. What is truth?
Well, truth from a prophetic point of view, from opposition, is Moses said this way. The Creator told him to say, you'll know that a man was sent by me, that what he says comes to pass. That's how you know Yah sent it. And everything that I've said from the time I went to Israel to now has been by the mouth of Yah through me, and I was taking it from those men and women who counseled with me and counseled me, and I repeated it, and they were not my words, but they were the words of the spiritual men and women that gave me the strength to do it, and I will still do it to this very day. And I want to say my apology is to the children that we let you down for not being all we were supposed to do, but I'm ready.
Prince, is there any closing words you want to give about truth and about power, and in this day and time, the way we should look at things to be great conquerors?
There's a book out called Power versus Force. And if you resonate at 1,000 and above, you can neutralize millions of people. And the psychology of that is that there's a book out called Transfinite Life by a scholar from the University of Illinois who wrote that there's a war for the Hebrews to dominate the world for Yah again. And I'm part of that war so that Yah lives eternally and forever. And that's the battle that I want to sign up people for so that we can bring the earth back to balance. Male and female, he made them, God and goddesses.
Because it speaks about the foundations of the earth being out of course.
It's out of course. 82nd Psalms.
So we have to get back in course. We have to get back in rhythm, back in focus again. I want to thank you for coming out today and for listening to this particular show and tuning in to the Voice Out of Zion today. I want you to continue to chat during the process of the show. Let us know you're there. Continue to go to our Facebook site. continue to go to the Voice Out of Zion site. And also, if you have any messages for us, you want to speak to us, leave a message at info@voiceoutofzion.today, and continue to tune in and just open up and let us know you're there, because this is for you. This is being presented for you, by you. And it's the day and time for you to get this message. And it's all designed to bring you to the attention that you need to have, because we are here today to return back to the words of Yah. Thank you again for listening and tuning in, and we hope to see you once again Tuesdays and Fridays. 5 o'clock, we're going to be here speaking to you continually. Thanks again for coming. Talk to you soon from the Voice Out of Zion.today. Thank you.
Teach the baby, teach the babies, teach the children, teach the children, teach the babies, teach the children, teach the babies.